Hello and welcome to Northwest Indian News. I'm Carissa Peapud Ramsey, a Tulalip tribal member. We are standing in the canoe hall of the Hibulb Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve on the Tulalip Reservation. Nearing its first year anniversary, the Hibulb Cultural Center is quickly gaining recognition for its exhibits, research library, and programs. It is a place to share the culture, traditions, stories, and history of the Tulalip tribes.
About 20 years ago, the tribal leadership had asked me to begin giving some time and thought about developing a museum for the tribe. And I think one of the key questions that I had to keep asking tribal members and people is, what do you want this museum to do? How do you see its purpose and function? And they would say to me, we want the cultural center to tell the truth about who we are, for us to tell a true story of the Tulalip people.
The way that it's all put together, it's very poetic and systematic, and it's very emotional when tribal members come here and they get to see it all put in front of them and see their artifacts and things that were found in this area and basket fragments from 2,000 years ago. It's all very powerful. We've been here for thousands and thousands of years, so we wanted to make sure we told the story and started at the beginning of time until now.
Why is this important is to provide an environment that gives our young people, our tribal people, a sense of time, place, and their history. And there's simply a lot of history in here that I didn't even know. I sat there listening to the elders talking about the exhibition theme, and I was just, wow, this is overwhelming. So it's to give our people a sense of time and place in their history.
The Hibulb Cultural Center is very fortunate to have a very large archaeology collection. In this case, we have some cedar artifacts that are carbon dated at about 2,000 years old. Right here we have a fishing weir, and the fishing weir is two pieces of wood and then held together by cedar, and this was used in a fishing trap. The fishing trap we have replicated in our fishing and waterways exhibit. These cedar artifacts were found in a wet site, and being in a wet site means that no oxygen was able to get to them at all. And typically with cedar, the oxygen would start to rot and decay it until it was gone. And thanks to the wet site, these artifacts are thousands and thousands of years old and in great condition. Tulalip tribal members have a lifetime membership, so they do come in for free. And we do have a fair share of tribal members that want to visit and read and explore the cultural center. But we have had such a wonderful reception from the outside and neighboring communities. People love it. They think that it's much more beautiful than they would have anticipated. They're very overwhelmed when they come in, from the brick building outside to coming into the exhibits and seeing all of the culture and everything just come to life.
You're in the Longhouse. I thought it would be good to design a slant roof longhouse, again, to give the younger generation a sense and an idea of these are the kinds of longhouses your people lived in 300, 400, or 500 years ago. These house posts come from the 1915 longhouse, and each pole vertical represented a family or a tribe. So the pole on my right, directly in back of me, well, that was William Shelton's grandfather's Skolalitut, his spirit power. It's actually a dog. And so as we were restoring it and cleaning it, you could see the blood, two red marks coming down. We thought that those four poles had been lost through the ages, and they're still solid. We cleaned them up, and here they are, a part of that history that was once lost, but we brought it back to life.
The Hibulb Cultural Center is named after a large Snohomish village where the tribes once lived. In Lushootseed, the word Hibulb means where the white doves live. We'll continue our tour of the Cultural Center later in this program, but first we'll visit the Muckleshoot Reservation, where a long-awaited longhouse is being built.
Right now, we practice our religion in the Slahal shed. It's a multi-purpose building, and we have to share that. The floor is sacred to the ground, and when you share that, and you got other birthday parties and whatnot happening on that very same floor, that's why we need this. We need our own home.
If I stay on the res, I'll be 8 times less likely to drop out of college.
If I stay on the res,
I won't be just another number.
I can learn biology in my native language.
I can use my education to help my people.
If I stay on the res,
I'll be more likely to transfer to a university.
6 times more likely.
If I stay on the res,
There's a 9 in 10 chance I'll finish college.
and I will finish college.
I will learn about the old ways so my culture will live on.
I will make my parents proud.
I'll make my people proud.
Our history will not be forgotten.
If I stay on the res.
I can get a quality education.
at a tribal college.
At a tribal college.
If I stay on the res,
If I stay on the res.
If I stay on the res.
Learn more about the 33 tribal colleges and how they're helping Native American people and their reservations. The American Indian College Fund, educating the mind and spirit.
I'm going to stay on the res.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in education. In Auburn, the Muckleshoot tribe just opened a new state-of-the-art $40 million school for up to 500 students in grades K through 12.
The tribe has made an investment in the Muckleshoot people, not just into facilities, but into the people to gain an education.
We want our children to be able to succeed in life. We want them to be able to compete with anyone in the world and achieve whatever they need to in their lives.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. We are in the Longhouse exhibit at the Hibulb Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve. Longhouses have always been an integral part of the Coast Salish culture, even though the U.S. government once banned them during an era of cultural oppression. Recently, NWIN attended the ground blessing ceremony for the Muckleshoot tribe's new Longhouse. NWIN's Leandra Smith brings us the story.
In an empty field under the watchful eye of Mount Rainier, visitors from area longhouses joined with the Muckleshoot tribe to bless the ground where the new Muckleshoot Longhouse will be built. The day was a celebration of words and songs and a chance to recognize another step in the journey to return the Longhouse way of life back to the area.
Traditionally, people who lived in a longhouse was only times like this during the winter months. That was to stay out of the weather, and you've got open fires. But then when the dogwood is in bloom, people would journey out and harvest. The people who ventured out and left the longhouse were gone for the season because they lived where the harvest was happening. Well, they came home at the end of the harvest, their smokehouse was burned. And all the artifacts, ceremonial objects, everything was gone. You know, it's easy to say for the last 100 years or so, this way of life was I say it was asleep, at least as far as this area goes.
For the Muckleshoot tribe, the Longhouse way of life has reawakened as elders and leaders from longhouses throughout the region joined together with gold-painted shovels to break ground on the construction of the Muckleshoot Longhouse. We met with Tribal Council member Mike Jerry to find out more about the plans for the future Longhouse.
If you're looking at this tent right here, it's going to face in this direction lengthwise, right here, and if you were in the dining hall area, it has glass, and you'll be able to see Mount Rainier on this side. Walking a longhouse, the best feeling is having the earth floor and natural pillars and fires. It's just the way it was a long time ago, and that's how we carry on today.
Through the regular summer months, all the families are out harvesting. They're busy trying to gather things to put away. They don't get to see each other till summer's over. When fall comes, they'll have their first Longhouse gathering and visit and share things that they had experienced over the summer.
It's a time of storytelling and a time for the people to exercise their medicine, which is sing and dance, their spirit powers, which are both very important to the old ones. What it is, like a spiritual renewal. We all need this.
You can't find these in any store, any songbook, or anything like that. The songs that are brought out today could be 10,000 years old and utilized way before our time and just coming back again.
Right now, we practice our religion in the Hall shed. It's a multi-purpose building, and we have to share that. The floor is sacred, the ground, and when you share that and you got other birthday parties and whatnot happening on that very same floor, that's why we need this. We need our own home. This is nothing but, prayers and tears, and really sacred to us. That's who we are. That's what we're about. It's not just for us here at home, at our reservation. We're thankful because all the other tribes all through the Puget Sound, Canada, can actually come here and gather, rejoice, and break bread with each other. That's why we're thankful, because it pulls all of the people together in practice of who we are.
For Northwest Indian News, this is Leandra Smith reporting.
Next, we'll learn about a story pole that stood on the state capitol campus for over 70 years.
The story pole became a symbol and an icon on the Capitol grounds, even for people who knew nothing about Native Americans or tribal traditions and cultures. It was a beautiful work of art.
That story and more on this episode of Northwest Indian News.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in jobs. Job-creating investments like the $350 million container terminal in Tacoma.
Kelp Tribe, through Marine View Ventures, is partnering with SSA Marine to develop a 200-acre, 3-berth terminal, which at full build-out will be the largest terminal in the Pacific Northwest.
Tribal governments are investing in Washington's economy, creating jobs in many different industries. Everyone's working together to make it happen. Washington's Indian tribes are investing in healthcare. The Jamestown S'Klallam tribe is expanding their healthcare clinic to meet an ever-growing community need.
Quality health care of our people, of our citizens, Indian and non-Indian alike, is essential for our future.
This new 35,000 square foot clinic will provide medical services and be open to the general public. Tribal governments are investing millions of dollars each year across our state to improve health and dental care in our communities.
That's the bottom line for us, is quality health care.
Until recently, the state capitol in Olympia was home to a 70-foot story pole carved by Tulalip master carver and tribal leader William Shelton. The story pole stood as a symbol of goodwill between the nations. We visited the Capitol campus in Olympia to learn more about the story pole and its creator, William Shelton. NWIN's Sherry Macy has the story.
Born in 1869, William Shelton of the Tulalip tribes grew up in a time of great change. In an era of treaty signings and boarding schools, when the U.S. government sought to destroy much of Native culture, he used his art to bridge the gap between Native and non-Native worlds. As a teacher, an author, a master carver, and a leader, William Shelton became an important emissary between Native tribes and the U.S. government. In the early 1930s, he began carving a story pole that would grace the Capitol campus for over 70 years, sharing its lessons and stories with thousands of visitors every year. And while the pole is currently in storage, its legacy continues to influence both art and governmental policy today.
Through that period of history, it was very difficult for us to practice our tribal history and culture because of the policy that was being dictated out of the U.S. Congress. And so Chief Sheldon, through his story poles and other things, was able to talk about our tribal history and our culture through the carvings and through his storytelling. He was an organizer, he was a leader, he was a storyteller, and he told his stories through all the multiple carvings of story poles that are actually all around the United States. Chicago, New York, Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C. His work is all over the place.
He was one of the few English-speaking tribal representatives of the day, and he worked tirelessly throughout his life to try to educate and inform the people of Washington State about the Native American tribes, about their culture, about their stories, and he was an amazing artist. The story pole became a symbol and an icon on the Capitol grounds, even for people who knew nothing about Native Americans or tribal traditions and cultures. It was a beautiful work of art.
The story pole in Olympia, and what it did was to bring the two worlds together in the state of Washington of all its citizens, the tribal citizens and, quote, the pioneers. It brought them together at that one place on the Capitol campus, recognizing the heritage of the state of Washington.
The pole was in place for 70 years, and during those 70 years, it was actually repainted or otherwise restored 5 times. But elements and time did their work. It is a cedar story pole, a cedar carving, and it rotted.
They did a radiograph on it to see where all the rotting was, and it was in pretty bad shape. So they chose to take it down, but we had to keep the stories together.
We were strongly advised not to individually display the pieces because the story pole was designed like the chapters in a book to tell a complete story, and to take any part of it away would diminish the whole.
Right now, it's stored in the old greenhouse right there on the Capitol campus grounds. It's not in the best place in the world for it, but we need to keep the stories together. So a process has got to be gone through with the artist and the historians on how we keep that pole together and how it should be displayed. So it needs to be preserved. The stories need to be captured and written and stored with the pole.
There is a strong desire to see something there to take its place. And initial conversations about that with tribal representatives and others floated the idea of commissioning contemporary carvers to carve the same stories in their own, using their own talents and styles, so that we would have the same set of traditions passed on in a new set of carvings. But our priority at this time is to take care of this story pole, to honor it, to make sure that we take care of it.
The legacy of Chief William Sheldon to me is his ability to communicate, his ability to tell stories, which makes him an educator, and then being able to do the art. He had all that rolled up into one, and he passed it on. The world grows up, it ages, we move, and it's a continuous cycle. We have to keep educating one another.
While the story pole lies in wait for its next chapter, continue to watch Northwest Indian News for updates and developments on the journey of this amazing piece of history. For Northwest Indian News, this is Sherry Macy.
Visit nwin.tv, where you can view every episode of Northwest Indian News on demand.
And I think one of the key questions that I had to keep asking tribal members and people is, what do you want this museum to do?
You can also watch NWIN and other Native programming at kanutv.com. Coming up next, we'll take a closer look at some of the exhibits on display at the Hibulb Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve.
We've had elders come in and say that these fishing huts look just like the fishing huts they remember seeing when they were young, fishing on the rivers and down at the beaches. They've also said that those fishing days were the best times of their lives, growing up on the beaches with their cousins and playing and fishing with their families.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in natural resources.
The main goal of the Tulalip Forestry Program is to preserve over half of our reservation in the forestry classification.
The Tulalips manage their tribal forest lands, create jobs, and also work with the U.S. Forest Service in our national forests.
We have a very unique collaborative effort here with the Tulalip tribes to restore the landscape for future generations.
Tribal stewardship of natural resources across Washington is an investment that benefits everyone. Washington Indian tribes are investing in the environment. The Nisqually tribe has undertaken the restoration of the Nisqually River Delta.
The goal of the project is to remove all the dikes, reflood the estuary, and helping back the salmon runs.
The Delta is a huge piece of our environmental efforts. So we feel this really deep internal desire to keep the river as well as these surrounding prairies in the best shape possible.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News as we continue our tour of the Hibulb Cultural Center and Natural History Preserve.
This is our exhibit on fishing and waterways. This exhibit is particularly important because Tulalips are known as the salmon people. And in this exhibit, we wanted to show people the long traditions of fishing and hunting in our community. We have multiple artifacts around our fishing hut. They would have all been found around a traditional fishing hut. My favorite is the stone anchor, which would have been used to anchor a canoe. This anchor is thousands of years old. It is very ancient, although we cannot carbon date it because there is no carbon in stone. We've had elders come in and say that these fishing huts look just like the fishing huts they remember seeing when they were young, fishing on the rivers and down at the beaches. They've also said that those fishing days were the best times of their lives, growing up on the beaches with their cousins and playing and fishing with their families. We have kind of dissected different parts of our culture, and in our cedar exhibit we talk about how the cedar was used, whether it was for baskets or clothing or houses, and we talk about how we would harvest the cedar, all of the different layers of the cedar, how they were all important. We talk about the boarding school as well as the Longhouse and the Shaker Church and the Catholic Church, and how each of them had a different impact on the reservation and the Tulalip people.
One of the things that I brought to the table is that we must have a changing exhibition room, that we don't want this to be a static environment where nothing changes. And so we included the contemporary gallery. The first exhibition was Warriors We Remember, so the next exhibition, 2013, will be the Point Elliott Treaty, the original copy of the Point Elliott Treaty. So that's going to be the next exhibit.
This exhibit right here is our family tree. This was the dream of our Tulalip Enrollment Committee. They wanted a place where tribal members could come and see who they were related to and their bloodline. On this screen, Tulalip tribal members will enter their enrollment number, and the boxes will come up on the screen that shows them where their family trees are on the wall. It's always exciting when a tribal member comes in and gets to see that they were related to somebody they didn't know before, or that they were part of a specific banned within the Tulalip tribes.
It is being labeled by many, many people in influential places that this is one of the finest contemporary Indian museums that they've seen in the country. And I think as we grow, people are going to continually want to come here and be a part of this.
The most exciting thing about the Hibulb Cultural Center for me is how interactive we are. I am hands-on, and so I think what sets us apart is that we're hands-on too. You can push buttons, you can weave, you can touch things, you can look at things, you can listen to things. It's not just a place where you're walking around with your hands in your pockets. It's nice to be able to go somewhere and be able to walk away really feeling like you learned something new.
We bring in carvers, weavers, storytellers. It's a cultural, educational center. It's not a static museum environment. It's a living museum, or it's a living cultural center.
We are teaching culture. We are teaching people how to use traditional plants and how to prepare them and cook with them and use them in their everyday lives. We also have a storytelling series, and stories are done in the Longhouse, and families can come in and listen to those. People can not just see culture, but actually experience it and learn it.
The development of this facility was really a dream of the Tulalip people. You know, it's their dream. Many of them have gone home already. You know, they're not here anymore, but this is what they wanted. This cultural center is dedicated to those who have gone home before us and to those who have remained to keep the fires burning.
I'm Carissa Peapud Ramsey, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories we brought to you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Northwest Indian News.